Hello, I'm Kelly. I am the author of The Legend of the Fairy Stones. I am going to read the book to you, but first I want to tell you a little bit about it and a little bit about the legend. So the legend of the fairy stones originated in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, and it's been passed along through oral storytelling tradition. And it is about real life starlight crystals, which are nicknamed fairy stones. And I'm going to show you one if you've not ever seen one. This right here is the first one that I ever found. Let's see if I can get a good shot of it there. There we go. And they are found in abundance in Virginia and actually all around the world. They are found in different areas around the world. But the legend, which originates in Virginia, says that the fairies cried when they heard that Jesus died, and their tears hit the ground and turned to cross-shaped stones. The legend says that a little elfin boy came from a land far away to deliver the news, and when the fairies heard, they were very sad, and so this is the story of where the fairy stones came from. So I wrote about it in originally authored verse, and I'm happy to share that I just won a 2020 Excellence in Craft Award for Outstanding Book from the Virginia Outdoor Writers Association. So yay for that. And last year in 2019, I won a Purple Dragonfly Award for Best Interior Design from Story Monsters. I not only wrote the book, but I also designed the interior pages. And I designed the book using all public domain images. I digitally collaged almost 200 public domain images throughout the book. So I'm going to show you an example of that. So this opening page looks like one image, and it's actually 3 images pieced together. It's this painting from the Walters Art Museum in Baltimore, this photograph of a fall tree that I pieced in, and then this fairy from an old storybook, which you can see is tucked right up here into the tree. So the book is just packed with layers and layers of images. It's just really rich with an abundance of artwork. So one other thing that I want to point out before I read the book is that the stones, once they're introduced into the narrative right here, then there's one hidden on every page afterward. So there's one hidden on this page, and then there's one hidden on every page after that, sort of like Where's Waldo or I Spy. And then also in the very back of the book, if you want to learn more about the fairy stones and where they're found, there's some information in the back. And there's also some information about some of the artwork. It was too much actually to put back here, so you can get the complete art credits on my website, which is kellyannwhite.com, and with an E. And now I am going to read to you my story, The Legend of the Fairy Stones. The Legend of the Fairy Stones by Kelly Ann White. Midst midnight mist of long ago, fairies flitted, glittered aglow. Carefree with glee, in glens and glades, they played till dawn when moonbeams fade. Entranced they danced in deep delight, in scattered light of morning's might. As sun rays struck the noontime hour, They lolled in beds of fragrant flower. Once shades of dusk eclipsed their wings, they rose to tend to fairy things, as songbirds prayed in trills and swells to tender tunes of tinkle bells. Oh, blessings a rhythmic melody brings to fairies that sing to harmony's ring. Fairies with mushrooms and fairies that bloom, fairies in costumes and fairies on brooms, fairies that flutter wherever they're led, fairies that tiptoe on spiderweb thread, fairies of fancy all dolled up just right, others so bright they illumine the night, fairies that know how to grow what they sow, fairies that flow like a vortex of snow, fairies that feel what it is to be free, wading in dreams of gold sand and sweet sea, fairies that glide as the spry fairies prance, fairies that hide and the fairies that glance, fairies with books and some nesting in nooks, fairies that follow clues through the hollow, fairies that kiss, smooch in bountiful bliss, fairies that croon or float up to the moon, fairies with wands, oh, or are they batons? Dear fairy godmothers, so many others. And then, one gloomy, doom-filled day, came dreadful news from far away. Trekking from a distant city, sadness sang a somber ditty. I am a little elfin boy. Forgive me if I'm void of joy. It's very difficult to say, but Jesus passed just yesterday. It was indeed so sad but true. The fairies turned to hues of blue. Yes, Christ had died, been crucified. The fairies cried and cried and cried. The saddest thing they'd ever heard, they never spoke of, not one word. You see, they sensed he still was near, so every tear released all fear. The fairy tears dropped here and there, but first they lingered in the air. When teardrops finally hit the ground, they turned to stones, but they weren't round. Tucked in pads of herbs and mosses, perceived losses turned to crosses. The cross-shaped stones on earth's dirt floor dissolved the grief forevermore. Now, even after all these years, the forest's full of fairy tears. Look closely when you're in the woods, as fairy stones are pure and good. You spot one, stash it in a sack, for bravery is at your back. Listen, shh, hear woodland whispers speak to you of nature's wishes. Fairy stones silence chants of old witches, freeing lost souls of twitches and switches. Fairy stones trip up the trick of the troll, proving deception a pitiful hole. Fairy stones giggle at goblins that drool, lifting the truth to make wise men of fools. Fairy stones lighten what lurks in the shade, only a shadow, so don't be afraid. Fairy stones dissipate hauntings of ghosts, strumming at heartstrings of heavenly hosts. Fairy stones snuff out a dragon's scorched breath, extinguishing fire that's leaping toward death. Fairy stones zoom in on zombies' zapped eyes, inviting to wake, inspiring to rise. Fairy stones vanquish venom of vampires, unveiling love that is humbler but higher. Fairy stones rub out the reaper's grim task, life everlasting now wholly unmasked. Fairy stones soothe while a devilish tug fails, rapture prevails to transcend rusty nails. For fiendish lies have no real meanings, nor do any daunting demons. Such knowledge rests in precious parts of open minds and happy hearts. Sheer courage set in solid rock inspires all to boldly walk along a path of certainty that's paved with love so gracefully, serving as a hushed reminder nothing else could be much kinder than wind-blown tones that gently moan the legend of the fairy stones. The end. And that's my story. I hope that you love it as much as I do. And I probably should have mentioned that in the legend says that the stones ward off evils and ill wills and curses and things like that. And for me, they're just really token reminders of faith and fearlessness, which is really important right now with everything that's going on in the world. It's really important to be in faith over fear. And that, of course, that never means to take unnecessary risks. But fear is not your friend. So have a great day, and I love you. Bye.